Welcome to another PLC Professor presentation. This one is going to be titled Using the Help Files for RSLinx and RSLogix. This is going to be at a basics level. All Rockwell software has help files. Sometimes I wonder if anyone reads them. I know I don't. Actually, once in a while I do. Most often when I'm looking for a way to demonstrate something for a video. When I'm actually on the job, I don't use the help files much anymore, but I'm always amazed at what I find in the help files when I go looking just for fun. We're going to start by looking at RSLinx Help first. And by the way, for those of you that have not traveled to the Southwest, this particular area it's in the Four Corners area of Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. This is specifically on the Navajo Reservation, and if you were standing a lot more to my right, this would be called Minton View, because these two buttes, these two monuments, look like a pair of mittens with thumbs. Anyway, just in case you wondered where this was at. So we're going to start with RSLinx Help. So to do that, we'll open up an instance of RSLinx. This is RSLinx Classic Gateway. You're probably using RSLinx Lite, which is a pro gratis software from Rockwell Automation. I just happen to have Gateway on my laptop because of some projects I'm working on. We all need help. Not many people, I think, really avail themselves of the help here, but let's take a look at it. Click on Help. We have RSLinx Classic Help. What's this? This I don't think really works that well, but basically, if you click on that, see the question mark next to your cursor? Then if you go over and click on something, it pops up with a little, what I would call a mouse over. I don't particularly care for that myself. If I go and do a mouse over, see, it pops up with something anyway. So don't waste your time on what's this. Then there's release notes, and then there's quick start. And then, of course, you know about RSLinx Classic. That's going to tell you the version that you have, the coordinated product release number, might have a license number if this is actually a purchased RSLinx software package, etc. So when it says about RSLinx Classic, it just means the particular installation that you have. So let's go to RSLinx Classic Help first and open it up. Now I'm sure you've seen this format before. Almost without exception, all Windows-based software has some sort of help files that look similar to this. And these are the typical features up here: hide, go back, print, or options. If I click on options, you can read them there. I never use options. I use back, and then I use these four tabs. So this is the contents. We'll collapse all of those. We can go to index, and we can type in something, and of course this is in alphanumerical order, so you can scroll down through all the subjects. Personally, I wouldn't look for it that way. You can do a search, and then if you have found something that you really like, you can save it as a favorite, and when you click on favorites, there it is. See down here it says add. And right now over here, overview of RSLinx. Now we'll just add that one. Okay, so now next time when we open up help, we go to favorites. There it is. We can display it. Not that special, but still useful if you find yourself needing repetitive help on something in particular. Let's go back to contents. And you can see that this was open at one time. We'll collapse them all down. Release notes, you saw that also under Help as a choice. We're not going to go look at this. We'll just click on one. Known anomalies. These are known anomalies that exist in this version of RSLinx Classic 2.59.01. Coordinated Product Release 9, Service Release 5. If you call up for help, for technical support, you need to know this information if this is the version that you have. Same way, if you scroll down through here, you can see some known anomalies. Now, a lot of these anomalies have to do with the operating system that you're using, not really with RSLinx. And it is not the responsibility of a software developer to accommodate every possible hardware operating system combination out there. They do their best because, after all, it is their market, it is their bread and butter. But remember that operating systems with service packs tend to change. And there are a number of things that we can do as users to mess up our operating system, to booger up the registry, and any number of other things. Be reasonable in what you expect from help from a software developer. So that's it for release notes. Overview. If we go to an overview of RSLinx Classic, what we have is kind of a comparison of what the 4 different versions support. Now, we're using Gateway. So when you look, Gateway has everything. There isn't anything that you can find in RSLinx the Gateway doesn't have. Single node is probably the most popular. Lite is pro gratis. In other words, if you want to say it's free, but it's no additional charge. And I'm not going to go over all the details of these different versions. But if you're wondering what the difference is between the versions, because you want to see what your version does or doesn't support, this is a good place to go. So if we look at some of the things that it doesn't support, notice that only the Gateway version supports PLC2 and PLC3. Also notice that the single node and the Lite version do not support unsolicited message. That's just a few. Wonderware, fast dynamic data exchange. Only the Gateway supports that. Now let's say that I wanted to refer back to this later. I could go to Favorites, Add, Contents, and we're back to where we were at. RSLinx Classic versions, and this actually describes each version in a little more detail. I open up this one because I wanted to point something out. Classic Lite, that is the free version that you're probably using if you're doing the complete PLC Learn series from the manuals. And to do the manuals, you either need a RSLogix controller, you need MicroStarter Lite, and you need RSLinx Lite, and of course you need the manual, whether it's the PDF that you printed out yourself or you purchased a printed version from the PLC Professor website. If you're using Lite, RSLinx Lite, notice it says this version does not support OPC, Object Link Embedding for Process Control, that's what OPC is, Dynamic Data Exchange, or the published RSLinx Classic C Application Programming Interface. This was something that you would get with the developer version. But this is the big one right here. If you want to do any kind of OPC or DDE, because I do get questions from people wondering how they can get data in and out of RSLogix or out of the controller into other applications that are not Rockwell software. You would do that with OPC and DDE. However, the free version doesn't support that. And that's fair, because after all, the whole idea of the free software is to give you a jump start on learning something, not to give you the capability to earn money using the software, only to learn with the software. If we go to single node, data acquisition using OPC or DDE to only one device. And that includes Microsoft Office, Visual Basic, and of course it includes more than that now. So this is not a complete list. But the point I want to make here is that the single node only supports OPC and DDE to one device. You can't open up a spreadsheet and collect data from half a dozen different controllers. We go to OEM, data acquisition using OPC and DDE to any number of devices. And of course, Gateway's going to do all that and more. I'll let you look through all those on your own. If you are new to this, you could go to Exploring RSLinx Classic, and here are the subjects that are covered, that are links, hyperlinks. The title bar, menu bar. You can see you can click on each of these and get an explanation. Toolbar. Actually, this one's pretty handy. Just for grins, we'll go to favorites. We'll add that one. I'm clicking on back. I could go to contents and do the same thing. Application workspace, status bar, options, general tab. Not many options with this software. Data table monitor. Now this is a good one. This explains how to use the data table monitor. And just for grins, I'm going to quick demonstrate how to use it. Now here, monitor a data file. This tells you exactly how to do it. From RSWho, click the plus sign to the left of the network that contains the processor. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to open up RSWho, click on the plus sign, then I'm going to right click on RSLogix 1100 and I'm going to go to data monitor. Okay, and I'm going to spread this out. Actually, we don't have to spread that out. It'll pop up in separate windows. So I do believe there's a timer in there running in that RSLogix. So we double click on that and look, there's the two timers, T40 and T41, and there's the preset and accumulate. Now this is read only, so you can't use this to edit the data. We could also go to outputs, bring them over here, inputs. So see, you can actually, with just RSLinx, you can do some data monitoring of your PLC without actually opening up the software. I've never used this other than to demonstrate it, because ordinarily I would go online with a controller and open up these same files where I can edit them if I want. I can also look at the logic. Here's our help back. So let's select this one, go to favorites, and add that. You see how we're building up points of interest. Go back to the contents. And I'm going to close overview. There's a quick start, configure driver. Here it explains how to configure a driver, if to edit an existing driver, configure a topic, edit an existing topic. These are things for DDE and OPC. Copy a link. If you do get around to using, we'll say, Microsoft Excel or anybody's spreadsheet to access data in the controller, you basically create a path and then you copy that path, called a link, and you paste it right into the cell in Excel, into the spreadsheet, and you'll see the data in that cell update real time with the processor. Now when I say real time, I mean real human time. Real human time is as fast as you can look at it, not as fast as it's actually happening. So real time is a matter of conjecture. We're not going into that. Quick start is handy. Troubleshooting, well, how to? Look at this list here. I see questions about installing RSLinx, using drivers, collecting data, set up networks. This one I've never done myself. Secure RSLinx Classic with Factory Talk Security. That's definitely an advanced subject. But I wanted to show you troubleshooting. If I look down through this list, this is really a good one. Error messages. Look at all these error messages that you can look up. I see comments, people getting error messages, and I see some of these in those comments. Be sure that you go and check your help files before you spend a lot of time spinning your wheels on the internet. Now, obviously, we've all learned that one of the fastest methods of getting an answer is just to Google it. Go to Google, type in, or even use your mouse to copy the message. Go to Google, paste it right in, Google it, guaranteed something's going to come up. You're going to get to somebody's bulletin board, somebody's forum, somebody's chat, and you're going to find an answer. So that's actually gotten to be the fastest method of getting a good answer. But we don't always have access to the internet. So it's good to look through here before you jump on the internet. This is one here, configuration errors. Look at all these configuration errors. And again, remember that we create most of the problems. It's not a problem with RSLinx. RSLinx is a fixed application. It's developed for as many situations as possible, but it is impossible to develop a communications driver manager that can accommodate any possible situation that we can create on our computers with all the operating systems, all the cabling, all the adapters, all the protocols out there. It's just not possible. But we do have a pretty good list here. So that was troubleshooting. Miscellaneous. I see a lot of these pop up. Okay, that's enough for RSLinx Help. Really, that's a lot more than what most people expect for help inside of RSLinx. That was RSLinx. Now let's get to RSLogix. The version that I have is RSLogix Micro Starter. It's the least expensive of the licenses that you have to purchase. I think it runs roughly $140, $150, $160. Personally, I think it's well worth it. I know you've heard me say this many times before, but I have spent thousands of dollars out of my own pocket to learn what I know. If I believe that it's going to give me the answers that I'm looking for, I pay for it. I won't burn up 2 or 3 hours looking for a freebie. I figure my time is worth more than that, and you should too. If you don't think your time is worth money, you've got another think coming. Always consider the time that it's going to take to get a freebie. If you have to walk across town to get a free breakfast, you probably could have earned enough money in that time to purchase food for a week. Enough of the philosophy. Here we have RSLogix Micro Starter. This is a program that's running in the MicroLogix 1100 right now. You don't have to be online to use the help. Remember the timer that was running earlier? There it is right there. This one, you don't see it running. It is running, but it only executes for one program scan. I know I'm getting off the subject here, but T41 not done means that this timer is not timed out. So this is true. This timer accumulates in hundredths of a second up to 100 increments, which would be 1 second. So every 1 second, this flash is done. This is true. It starts this timer. Next scan, this is false, and it clears everything and starts over again. That's why this is enabled for one program scan, and that's it. That's why we didn't see anything changing when we were looking at the data monitor. It actually is changing. You can see that. Every once in a while it flashes a 6, 7, 8, 9, something in that neighborhood. We did not see that number in the data monitor for a real simple reason. The update time of the screen and the application is too slow to catch anything that quick, whereas we're right online with the processor here. Okay, help. Contents, instruction help. We don't care about copy protection. User application help. I created something specifically for that to demonstrate it to you. User application help only exists if you create it. If you don't create it and you click on that, you get nothing. You get no reaction whatsoever. And of course, release notes and Rockwell automation on the web. We'll go ahead and click on one of these. It's probably going to take us to the same page for most of these. So we'll click on one. And there we are. We're right on Rockwell automation. And of course, you can go to support, which is where you're at, right? Get support now. If you want to talk to someone, if you want to chat or have an email, you will probably have to have what they call a Tech Connect contract. You can get help on these products from your local AB distributor. That would be my first choice, would be to call your local AB distributor and give their technical specialist your question and see where it goes from there. So we'll cancel this, go back to help, and I believe all of these are going to take you to the same place. So you could go to products and technologies, and you could go down to control systems. You could go to a number of different categories, programmable controllers, and you can start picking different systems. We'll go to the micro because that's what we're using, RSLogix. You see here we're using RSLogix 1100. Software, documentation, and there you have PDFs that you can download, product catalogs, etc. That's actually pretty handy. Go back to help. So we've covered Rockwell automation on the web, release notes. So I'll cover the boring stuff first. Every time they release a new version of anything, there are release notes. This is version 9 of RSLogix Micro. And if we go down here and look, you can see known anomalies and some application notes. If you're having problems, by all means go here first and read. And here's the list. Let's do instruction help. You're more likely to want help with the instructions. Now, you don't have to go to help to get this. You can also find it in other locations, but this is the easiest place to remember, instruction help. And we will have to drag that up onto the screen because it opened up outside of your viewing area. This is important to note here. I'm going to pull this aside, and I'm going to click on this button right here. And naturally it opened up outside of your field of view. I'll drag it in. I want you to notice something about this. Is the instruction palette. Now the difference between this and instruction help is that this list in context with the processor that you're using, it's processor sensitive. And when you look at the instructions there, you see some that are grayed out. See ACS, BTR, BTW, cosine, compute. You see a number of these are grayed out. Logarithms, sine, tangent, some place will be cosine. I saw that right there, cosine. So these are instructions that are not available in this particular processor, the 1100. Now if we had a 1000 open, there would be even more grayed out, because remember, this is a list of all the instructions for the entire RSLogix family. But it's processor sensitive, therefore it grays out the ones you can't use, which is a big help. So we'll close that. We'll go back to our instruction help. We have a list of the type of instructions. We'll spread this out so it's a little bit more readable. Here's a list of all the type of instructions. These instructions, typically you can get help on any of them. I see that one is grayed out. If you click on any of these instructions, it comes up with a help. Notice, use with processors 1200, 1500, 1400. But 1200 Series B and C, not Series A. The firmware in Series A doesn't support the test buffer for line instruction. Neither does the Series A for the 1500. But the 1400, which is the latest in the pièce de résistance RSLogix, it does support literally everything. Notice the 1100 and 1000 are not even mentioned, which means these instructions are not supported. Now this is an ASCII instruction that I clicked on it from this matrix. Once you're into one of these sections over here, we'll do that again. We'll pick that instruction. That instruction is in this group, so it pops open this list, the ASCII instructions, and then from here you can pick anything you want. If I go down and pick these, each one of them tells you what processors support them. If you scroll down in any of these help files, you'll find related topics. If you look down through this list and expand these, now all of these are going to be supported by all the processors. See, all MicroLogix processors. All of the processors, 1000, 1100, 1200, 1400, 1500, their firmware supports all these bit shift, FIFO, and LIFO. First in, first out, last in, first out instructions. Now, we're not here to talk about the instructions. I'm just here to show you the help files. Fault routine. If you're wondering what the fault routine is, that's a file that you can create to execute whenever there's a fault. File manipulation instructions. PID control. Notice 1200, 1400, and 1500. None of the other two, 1100 or 1000, support the PID. Function files. That's a good one. Function files are not available in the 1000. These exist only in the MicroLogix 1100, 1200, 1400, and 1500. By the way, I'm not trying to sell you MicroLogix here. I just assumed you're using them, and here's help on using RSLogix 5000. I hate presentations that are sales oriented, that it's more feature telling you what it can do instead of telling you how to do it. So I'm just breezing through these, pointing out the ones that I think might be of value. Now obviously high speed counter, pulse train output, pulse width modulation, if you're going to do any kind of motion control with a MicroLogix, these are very important. Not all of the MicroLogix 1100, 1200, 1400, 1500 processors support these. So let's take the PTO for example. Now, I don't see that it tells you here what model numbers, but typically if I have a project that needs pulse train output or pulse width modulation, I get a BXB. Of course, the MicroLogix 1000, BXB that I provide people as a little trainer, that does not have these functions. It doesn't have the inputs and the outputs to support it. If I'm looking to buy an 1100 or a 1400, I always try to buy the BXB. The BXB is going to be the model that has PTO and PWM. And here's where you go to get information on how to use them. So there's quite a bit of information in there. And then of course there's the LCD function file. The 1100 and the 1400 have a little LCD screen right on the front of the processor. And this is how you configure it. So this explains the file. So LCD setup screen tells you how to set it up for the different lines. Maybe we'll do this as an advanced subject at a later date. We'll create a video showing you how to use the LCD function file to set up a custom display on your 1100 or 1400. Now that's the instruction set. If I go back to help, pick contents, this is going to be a lot more detailed. Let me drag it into view here. And of course it doesn't hurt to read the welcome. We don't care about the welcome. There is a quick start, just like there was with RSLinx. And you can see I've clicked on a few of these just to see what the quality was. Just about anything you can think of to do, there's help here for it. Monitor data files, search and replace, use advanced diagnostics. Advanced diagnostics is really cool. Advanced diagnostics allows you to create text that shows up over here in your ladder files. If you see a plus sign in front of ladder 2, ladder 3, or any of these ladder files, if you click on that plus sign, it will give you a list of the text that you have entered as advanced diagnostics. You could think of them as page titles if you like. So let's say you have 1000 rungs of logic. You have broken up your logic into 7 sections. On the first rung of each section, you put in advanced diagnostics text, and then that text shows up here. So when you expand the ladder file, which we don't have any, so there's nothing to expand, it'll give you a list of those text fields that you filled out. You click on one and it takes you right to that rung, advanced diagnostics. Really cool. I could spend a lot of time going through all this. We really don't have time to do that. Now, by the way, the compare utility is only available in certain versions of RSLogix. I know it's not available in the Lite. It might be available in the starter. I've never used it. I tend to use the compare utility in 5000 because in the Logix engine, which is what is used in ControlLogix and CompactLogix, etc., It is much more complex. The tag databases are very bulky and can be cumbersome to read. So doing a compare between two programs to see what the differences are becomes extremely important with 5000. But it's also, a lot of people do use it for 5 and 500 as well. That's the compare utility. It explains how to use the compare utility in detail. Documentation explains how to work with your address and symbol editor, database editor, database utilities. Okay, last but not least is user application help. If you click on this, you're not going to get anything. However, I'll go over here to help, click on user application help, properties, right click on user application help properties. You see I have a path in there. That is a path to something on my hard drive. I'll explain to you what I did. I have a folder called user application help. If you were going to do this, you would create a folder on your desktop, user application help. And in that folder, you would have folders for every single machine on your shop floor. And the folder name would be the name of that machine. Palletizer 1, Palletizer 2, Palletizer Cornflakes line, Rice Krispies line. So every controller would have its own user application folder inside of the main folder, user application help. And inside of each machine's folder would be a number of documents and things that you want to access. I created a Word document with hyperlinks. So we'll just go open that up. I'm going to click on user application help. Now that path I just showed you goes to that document. So that document opens up, and we'll drop it down so we get it inside of your view here. Remember, this opened up in Microsoft Word, and you can see that, and by the way, this particular machine is made by the Monkey Shines company, and it's an apple polishing machine. No joke. And it says this machine was commissioned at the Timbuktu Fruit Packing Facility in August 2007. I have 5 hyperlinks there. I created this document. You have to create your own document. You need to go do this if you are at all interested in developing top drawer, top-notch, quality help for each of your processes out there that you work on. This is worth the while. And a lot of these materials can be reused in each of the help files. So the first one is process description. Now this is going to, notice control, click, and this opens up another Word document that describes the processor for the Honeycrisp Polisher Machine 4. And here's the description of the process. The apple goes in, and round it goes, shiny as it goes, and out it comes, shiny, more shiny, shine. I know that's really stupid and corny, but I just, you would have probably the functional spec from the machine manufacturer or the sequence of operation of the machine. A maintenance person or an engineer goes out on the shop floor, is not familiar with that machine. Now most of us can look at it and get a good idea what's going on. Sometimes it helps to have a description. This is where you would put that description. Now I'm going to close that document, and we're back to the main document, electrical drawings. So control click, and there's the electrical drawings, bill of materials, I/O sheet, panel layout, 3-phase motor drawing, etc. Wire marshalling. I'm not going to open up these drawings because it really doesn't matter what they are. I just grabbed anything at hand to put something in here. But you would find the AutoCAD drawing, whatever software the drawings were created in, and all of them allow you to convert it to something like a bitmap or a JPEG or a PDF, and you just take and put copies of all those drawings into this file under user application help electrical drawing. I don't have to go back to my Word document here. I could just go to user application help here and find the same thing, but we won't cheat. Okay, hardware manuals. And under hardware manuals I have controller. This is not manufacturer's title for these documents. What I did was I opened up the manual, which was a 1761 something something -EN for English, etc. I looked at the name of the manual over here, and I changed the name of that manual to match this, because I don't care if it's 1761-UM001-EN or whatever. That doesn't mean anything to me. So I rename them to match the title on the cover. So you see under controller, I have the Ethernet interface manual. I have the embedded web server. Now that's a separate device. This isn't part of an 1100. This is something you can purchase. And then the instruction set, and this is a big document. We'll open that up. Double click on it, and it's a PDF, and I'll drag it into your view. Look at this, 618 pages. 618. If it's not in here, then it doesn't exist. Goes through I/O configuration. Remember, this is for an 1100, not a 1200, not a 1000, not a 1400, not a 1500. This is for the RSLogix 1100. And I'm not even going to open up any more of this. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. Here we have these 4 manuals under the category controller, under the category hardware manuals in user application help. There would be another folder in between this one and this one that says Honeycrisp apple polishing machine. I guess I didn't go far enough in my little example that I set up here. Back to our main document. In case you don't know how to create a hyperlink, you type in some text, highlight it, right click, and then create hyperlink. It's already a hyperlink, so I can't recreate it. Oh, what the heck. We'll just type in another one down here. Hyperlink, and we'll link it to something. Okay, now if I click on that, it opens an article I wrote. We're not going to read this. I just wanted to show you how simple it is. I just quick type that in and created a hyperlink to a document. Here's the caveat. Here's what can bite you in the butt if you're not careful. When you create a hyperlink, you're creating a path. You're copying a path and pasting it into that text object. If you move the file that it points to, then this isn't going to go anywhere when you click on it. That's why it's important that you create a folder called User Application Help, and then another folder, subfolder for each machine, and then in each subfolder, that is where you put everything, and you don't move it. User Application Help has to stay on the desktop or wherever you put it. It has to stay there. If you move it, none of this works. Okay, maintenance log, that's going to be a Word document. Apple polishing machine on April 3rd, 2007. The machine was commissioned on April 24th, the next day. Rotten apple jam and the pre-twirling juxtafier. And what was discovered was that the stem mullinator was found to be loose. So the maintenance guy adjusted it, calibrated, and tightened it down. Cleared all photo eyes of rotten apple debris. Corny, yes, but you get the drift. This points to a document that you create, and it could even be a spreadsheet, which is much easier to do a login. You can have tutorials. If there's a particular tutorial that you like associated with this machine, you can just click on it. It opens up another document and then takes you to wherever that tutorial is. Could even be a video embedded right on your video in the Basics series titled RSLinx Driver. Okay, you get the drift, right? All you really have to learn to do is how to create hyperlinks and documents and how to organize everything into folders. Now, tutorials, let's do that again. You could actually download videos from manufacturers' websites and then put the videos in here and then open them up in any of your media viewers like Real Player. So as you can see, User Application Help is really cool if you take the time to do something with it. Now we are back to our controller. So I think we pretty much covered the help files. We went to Rockwell on the web. We went to release notes. We might have done that for RSLinx. Yeah, see this, there's more here. We did it for RSLinx, so here it is for RSLogix. Well, I hope you've learned something and you've been helped. That is one of 2 presentations that I have a very difficult time trying to make it interesting. Every time I do either number systems or the help files, I always feel at the end that it was boring. Actually, there's nothing interesting about the help files unless you really need help. I've gone through enough, done enough navigation through the help files that I think you'll be encouraged to use them if you need them. Thank you for watching.